my folder, but I don't have my
I'm looking
folder.
for that discernment. Okay, Joey shows up.
Wrong thing. Yeah, sorry, I forgot. Good morning. My name is Pam Summons, and I'm the service assistant this morning, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you the Reverend Samuel Prince. He is from the Akron Unitarian Universal Church, and it's wonderful to have you here. Oh, and a little reminder to kindly silence your phones. So, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I think you could hear me, right? Awesome, awesome. There are two questions in which I normally ask myself. And I also ask this question in regards of asking others. How does it free us? Let me repeat the question again. How does it free us? And also, how does it heal the village? And in terms of that, I'm asking the question, how does it heal the Unitarian Universalist Church of Akron? On our minds and in our hearts, with our spirit, we acknowledge the beauty and the power to create. And a piece of that, what I do for myself, is the fact that I use the spirit of creation, right? I use the spirit of the imagination in which I have. I carve out time to imagine a goal in which I have. I imagine how that goal feels, how it centers me, how it impacts me, but also how it can impact others. And then I also have the feeling of how the goals smell. Have you ever had that done before? There's a goal you have that you're trying to reach to, and how does it smell? And then I take the goal and I fill in as much details as much as I can. I do that though, not because I feel that the goal is something ambiguous. No, I feel the dream of the goal and how to manifest itself exactly as to the way as to how I think it should be. I fill in everything about that goal, and it makes me feel happy. It makes me feel as if sometimes that I have covered all the bases, kind of, although sometimes as an imperfect human being as I am, I don't. I do that because I feel the dream of the goal to manifest itself. And that's what works for me. However, one of the things that I'm also clear of is the fact that our lives is not solely about the thoughts or the beliefs in which we have. They're often reflecting energies. So I'm looking at the audience right now, and I could feel an energy that's coming back at me. And the reason why your eyes is on me. So I could see the energies in which is coming back. We have this concept that our words have power. And if we are a part of a religious community, there is different forms of beliefs in which we have. And you may have been told the fact that the words have power to create, the tongue our tongue, our words have the power to destroy. And there is something which is magical about speaking words into existence. And as you go about your month, as you go about today, we have on our minds that the month of May is what? The month of May is a mental heal month, which was established in 1948. It was established to increase the awareness, the importance of mental healthness and wellness in our human lives and to celebrate recovery from that mental illness. In our spirits, we have the affirmation of the healing energy tools. We all have that. You have that. I have that. Your life is a reflection of the energies in which go back and forth. Within our spirits, the energies that we give out will reflect in our lives. It's a kind of a Buddha practice in which we have. You know, the fact that the energies you put out is most times is what comes back at us. Conversely, though, when you give out the positive energies, things may come back to you in a positive manner. You give out a negative energy, of course, negativity will come back at you. Therefore, as we think of the awareness in this month of May, we have Jewish American Heritage Month. That is celebrated in the month of May. We have neurodiversity, which is celebrated in the month of May. And the one of which I really like is the Harvey Milk Day. Do you know who Harvey Milk is? I see some shaking of the head, so you know what Harvey Milk is about. Yes, Harvey Milk Day is coming up in this month. So, friends, I ask you to choose those emotions in which you have, choose them wisely, so that what you send out, that you could get back. And at the very same time, use the powers you have. I like to talk about your superpower, and every one of you in this room have a superpower. So let's discover that.
The opening words this morning are by Mahogany L. Brown. We are awake, wide in our understanding of what is so pretty and shiny, of what is dull and dim in this world. But look here, even wider, between our outstretched arms, a brave and growing world. Look closely. Don't forget, we invited you here to live inside this truth, this freedom. We never sleep on what's at stake. The chalice is lit. Are you saying that or am I
Yes,
saying
I
that?
am.
Okay.
And the chalice lighted words in which we have chosen, those words are, may this flame, which is already lit, be the light of wisdom in our minds and as the warmth of love in our hearts. And the covenant in which we have. I'm not sure if we stand to say that,
No,
but you have that in your order, or you
They don't
know
stand.
that. Okay, so
love is
is the
the
doctrine of this church.
The quest for truth is the sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and love, and to help one another.
Thank you. The opening hymn we have is hymn number 298. Wake now my senses. These are words by Thomas J.S. Mickelson. And it's a melody tune from the Irish folk melody, Slain, a hymn which captures the essence of Unitarian Universalism. Hymn number 298.
We stand.
childhood anew. Join with each pilgrim whose quest ordered through. Loyalty and wisdom of time. Favor thy name and praise the sublime. Without compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Take us your favor, both stranger and friend. Praying and striving, dear hardship to end. Wake up my conscience with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place, but love embraces your own grace. Wake up my vision of ministry, brighten my pathway with radiance gay. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Up by it, transform my heart here.
Good morning. During the Women's March of 2020, the world was introduced to woke baby. In this photo, we see an almost 2-year-old baby sitting on her father's shoulders. She is carrying a cardboard sign that she made herself with colorful scribbles on it, and she's holding it high above her head like she has been to protests before. The caption above the picture reads, "I feel like #wokebaby just gave us something powerful here, but our third eye ain't ready for the truth." So what is woke baby saying here? I cannot read her words, but I respect the energy. This same energy was around exactly 100 years before woke baby, when a group of women was agitating for the right to vote. These suffragettes, as they were called, told the world that the youth of the day were ready to claim their power. They said, and I will paraphrase here, "What is the powerful spirit of youth? Isn't it the spirit of rebellion against senseless and useless things, most of all against injustice, which is of all stupid things the stupidest? The old selfish minds must go, the young are at the gates." So would we call those suffragettes woke? They were definitely radical. They gave up their health, their freedom, their safety, and they made it possible for me and my grandmother and my mother to vote. Were they woke? I would say that they were not. They wanted change, yes, and they supported the emerging youth of their day, which is great, but they wanted change for themselves and the people like them. They supported their own emerging young people, white, middle or upper class, well-educated. They probably would not have described themselves as being white supremacists, but they were. The women's suffrage movement on the whole was overtly racist. The suffragettes believed that they would get the right to vote for women more quickly if they focused on and limited their membership to upper class, respectable white women. Getting the right to vote for white women was a step forward from where we were before that, and I do have gratitude for it. And now we, humanity, we are better people. We know better. We who are advocating for change are listening to and fighting for BIPOC people, women, men, non-binary. We're listening to disabled people, gay and queer people, immigrants, the poor, people with mental health struggles, people with addictions, people who have criminal records, people who don't have homes. Woke Baby might say that our third eye is opening now. We have always known that there are people who, for whatever reason, are not effective advocates for themselves, and now we, the mass of humanity, are doing much better at listening to and fighting for those people. Woke Baby, she's a young woman of color. She is the child of refugee immigrants. She is literally sitting on her dad's shoulders, fighting for change like a boss. Our babies are becoming woke, and it is our job to listen to them. Thank you.
I ask you, friends, to put your foot on the ground. Take a deep breath. Deep breath. As you listen to the song which has just been played in your life, we gathered together in this place to honor and understand our lives. We bring our past and would share them, our dreams and would express them. We use words, we use song, we use silence, we use gesture. Words cannot define our lives, but they will enable us to reach out to each other, to tell and to listen, that we may be renewed, connected, unburdened. Apprehend with wonder the lives of those around you. And from wonder to wonder, existence opens. A minute of silence.
The following reading is by Mahogany L. Brown. Our voice is our greatest power. When we stand together, we can speak up against mistreatment. We are saying that we will not be silent about the mistreatment of people. We are not yielding or bending because the conversation is uncomfortable. We are not yielding or bending. We understand activism happens online and offline, in the streets, picketing, and in classrooms, teaching, on the blogs, writing, on the internet, sharing information. It happens everywhere. It is active. It is energy. It is resisting to be comfortable when we all have yet to feel safe and free.
So I'm in all smiles right now. It is a pleasure to be here with y'all. You know, yesterday we had a workshop, some feedback, and so forth on the eighth principle, the adopted eighth principle, that's what I should say. And it's a pleasure to be here with y'all. Even those in the choir here, those voices in which I've just heard, you know, it's a pleasure. So the theme in which I have is anything wrong with being woke? Woke. In this world in which we live in over the past year or so, or 2 years or so, there has been this huge energy which has been put on the word woke. And it has taken on various forms of issues. And the question that I always ask myself, because of my faith, how does the word woke equate itself to Unitarian Universalism? So let's go back. Let's look at a book which was published about a year ago. And in the book, it was entitled Christianity and Wokeness: How the Social Justice Movement is Hijacking the Gospel. When I heard that, and you know what, friends? I bought the book. I bought the book because I wanted to understand and to see why and how and where. Owen Strachan, who was the author of the book, he walked through the whole entire history of the woke ideology and examined its consequences in our American culture and in our church. The first 2 chapters of the book examine how woke ideology is entering the culture and, again, as I said, our church. According to Strachan, wokeness means to be awake and in tune with the prevailing zeitgeist, critical race theory, which sees society as an intentional system of power which is meant to oppress others based upon their skin color, and it currently is used as an example to identify what woke ideology is. And this was important in what he said. He said that CRT purports that white privilege is the root of social justice issues and must be eradicated. He goes on to say the fact that wokeness is first and foremost a mindset. In the most specific terms, that means that one sees the comprehensive inequity of our social order and strive to highlight the power structures in society that stems from racial privileges. In intellectual terms, wokeness occurs when one embraces the system of thought, of what that thought is, called critical race theory. And we've all have heard this, right? CRT. The fact that CRT teaches that all societal life is structured along the racial dynamics. My friends, I shudder. And then I calm myself down. I shudder at just the fact of hearing the conclusions of the individual formulating of these incorrect meanings, and more on this later, and not knowing what they're articulating, or what is it that these very same authors and writers they're are pontificating. Now, I am from a Christian background. I call myself, in many times, a UU Christian. That the word awaken is mentioned about 37 times in the Bible. For those of us who have came from that background. But what I would do, I would let Anthea Butler, a University of Pennsylvania religion scholar and author of the book White Evangelical Racism. In her response to Mr. Trahan, she said, white evangelical leaders have long faced a dilemma when it comes to race. They want to bring people of all sorts to the church without disrupting the status quo outside of the church. The legendary evangelical minister or evangelist, Billy Graham, desegregated his crusades during the civil rights in the 1950s and the 1960s. And Butler went on to say that the evangelist Graham thought that this movement was going too far for civil rights. And these extremists was moving too fast. And then he ended it off with saying the fact that Jesus said racism would be obsolete. I wonder about that. Because although sometimes the word, many of us remember the parable of the Good Samaritan, right? We all remember that. It didn't talk about race, but there was something between the Samaritans and others. They weren't looked upon very kindly. So to make these statements sometimes, where is that coming from? So I love history. I love to go back in history and look at past lives and past events which had happened, occurred. And we are all the products of history. You learn how to walk today upright based upon you as a little child. Remember that first step you took? Well, some of us may not, but that's okay. Right? That first step you took, or your parents encourage you to take that step. That what makes where you are right now. You would not be in existence without those past experiences in which you've had. You've learned to forgive. You've learned to heal. You have looked at yourself in those peaks and valleys in which you have. History help us to understand how events in the past have made things the way they are today. And with lessons of those past, we're not we don't always learn or only learn about ourselves and how we can be, but they also help us to develop the ability to avoid mistakes and create better paths for ourselves and our society. So the question is again, what do we mean by woke? I'm going to let Martin Luther King tell us what it means to be awakened. This is from a sermon in which he had given, and the sermon was entitled, Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution. And here is what he said. Now, I am not an oratory as Martin Luther King was, but I'm going to try a bit. I'm sure that you have read that arresting little story from the pen of Washington Irving entitled Rip Van Winkle. The thing that we usually remember about that story is that Rip Van Winkle slept for 20 years. But there's another point to that story that is almost as always completely overlooked. It was a sign on the inn in the little town on the Hudson from which Rip Van Winkle went up into the mountain for his long sleep. When he returned, the sign had a picture of King George III. When he came down, years later, the sign had a picture of George Washington, the first president of the United States. Rip Van Winkle looked at the picture of George Washington and he was completely lost. He knew not who he was. And what is that telling about us and a being awakened? This reveals to us that the most striking fact about the story of Rip Van Winkle is not that he slept for 20 years, but the fact that he slept through a revolution. While he was peacefully snoring up in the mountain, a great revolution was happening. It was taking place, and indeed, a revolution which would at points change the course of history. Yes, Rip Van Winkle knew nothing about it because he was asleep. So we're going to take the words of what Martin Luther King said, and we will bring that home. What does woke means? I'm an avid radio listener. I listen to the radio a whole lot. And one of the best rendition that I have heard of woke, it says, it means that seeing that our generation is changing, we are not going back into the pre-1965, and excuse the expression that I'm about to say, the fact that women are standing up for their rights. Women needs to get paid. They don't need to be barefoot and pregnant in their homes. Not living to work, but working to live. Put my kids through college if that's where they want to be. Enough is being paid for childcare. Not under the auspices of any kind of a white supremacy, removing the oppression that causes harm to our human lives. Our lives, our eyes are open to what's occurring around us. It means that a time will come that changes will occur within the walls of our own Unitarian Universalism. I haven't mentioned anything there too much about race. Didn't mention there anything too much about the aspect as to how CRT is. We've all have been inundated over the past couple of days. Yes, we've been inundated with hearing about individuals in mass killing. We've all been affected. Martin Luther King speaks about the mutuality of us. What affects one affects the other. The question then becomes, what are you doing about it? What am I doing about that? I give this experience yesterday that my sweetheart and I, we took a pilgrimage tour to the South. We went down to the South. We've never been to the South. I could say we have not. I have not and has not. And the reason why is the fact of the discriminatory laws that exist in our South. Sometimes they expose themselves. But onward we went. While driving to Selma and to Montgomery, we stopped at a visitor site where the attendant directed us to a memorial stone of Viola Lueso. Viola Lueso. For some of us who know about who Viola Lueso is, let me also help in that area. Viola Lueso, she had fought the fight for civil rights when it comes to when it was at its most dangerous juncture, and she was killed. She was shot. Viola Lueso was a Unitarian. 2 weeks earlier, James Reeb, March 11th of 1965, this minister was nationally known as a martyr for civil rights because he died on that date in answer to the call that Martin Luther King had put out to have ministers come and march, come and join with this fight for civil rights, a nonviolent march. And he was killed. Now, I don't know if James Reeb had known at that time of Viola Lueso. I don't know. But the fact that there were two Unitarians who have lost their life for civil rights, the question I ask myself, and I'm going to put that question to you, would you give your life for the civil liberty of another person? Would you? Solidarity means not just being an ally. It also means that standing with those who are marginalized to the point of losing your life. Roxane Gay, an American writer and activist, said that Black people do not need allies. We need people to stand up and take on the problems which is born out of oppression as their own without remove or distance. We need people to do this even if they cannot fully understand what it's like to be oppressed for their race, for their ethnicity, for their gender, for their sexuality, ability, class, religion, and other markers of identity. We need people to use common sense so that they could figure out how to participate in social justice. Sometimes I think that word social justice has been so codified. So I use the word justice that covers all that. And the most important point about going into Selma and then going into Montgomery was the fact that when you went to Montgomery, I don't know how many of us have ever been there to see the Lynchian Museum, right? Have you seen that? Some of us have seen that. But if you go there, there's these coffin-like is hanging in that museum. From every state of the state, from some of the counties, from the counties, some of the towns, and it just hangs there. Of course, I looked at Ohio. How many towns in Ohio that people were lynched? And as we were driving back, the essence of this of going there to that museum on the way back was passing the towns and the cities, and then I began to take my phone out. Yes, technology do work sometimes, friends. And looking at exactly these towns and counties we were passing and trying to understand and realize how many individuals were lynched in those towns. Today, in our country, in the world we live in, we're hearing the bullhorn messages of passing of many legislature bills. We have the anti-woke bill, which is being passed. We have an anti-LGBTQ bills is passed, which is personal for me. We're hearing about anti-CRT bills which is being passed. You can't read this in a library. These books are being removed. I love what you have here. I took a couple of them. I'm going to take it back to my church. You have an I don't recall what it was, but a what? Yes, you have that here. I love that. Yeah. Books are books. Books tells us about our past, but also it infuses within us the things we need to do for the future. So, going back again to the words of Martin Luther King, what Martin Luther King said. He said that we sing a little song sometimes, it's a part of our hymnal, we shall overcome. But when we sing, we shall overcome, we are singing a hymn of faith. We are singing a hymn of optimism. We're singing a hymn of the future, of what faith can be like. I can still sing that song because I have faith in the future. I believe that we, as what Martin Luther King said, as Negroes are going to gain our freedom in America because the goal of America is freedom. And before the Pilgrims have even landed, they are at Plymouth. We were here before Thomas Jefferson echoed or etched across the pages of history the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence. We were here. Before the words of the Star-Spangled Banner were written, we were here. They made cotton king. They built the homes of their masters, and in the midst of the most oppressive conditions, they continued to grow and develop. Certainly, if the inexpressible cruelties of slavery couldn't stop us, the opposition that we now face will surely fail. We will win our freedom, both the sacred heritage of our nation and the eternal will of God, which are embodied in our echo and demands. This is not just applicable to also race, friends. It's about the oppressions in which we all are having at times. At the end of my blurb, my service blurb, it asks the question still, what does wokeness mean for Unitarian Universalism? More though, what does wokeness mean for Unitarian Universalist Church of Toledo? You see, I almost said Akron. No. Of Toledo. I was informed by one of your congregants, and I made this comment yesterday. There was a visitor you had here. There was a whole meeting with councilmen, with council folks, and so forth. They were here. There is opportunities which is existing in your community that whereby we could become involved in that. That is what Unitarian Universalism is calling on me to do. That is what I hope it is calling on you to do. A journalist who lived in Dayton says that living with a purpose means what matters to you is to be associated with your values. And we believe that God's plan, and God, we use that in certain ways, friends, and God's plans for your life. This may differ from what it all means, but when you feel it, you know it. And I will turn that around. When you know it, you also feel it. I feel that a change is coming in parts for Unitarian Universalism. I am excited about it. Not only do many congregations right now, I think there's a number goes up to 223 who have adopted the eighth principle, and also the change within the purposes in which we have. And the bylaws you have, how is that reflective from the movement which you're moving into the eighth principle? How would the construct of your church, how would that be affected? The fact that when we speak of values, what are values? Very simply for me, that values are the basic and the fundamental beliefs that guides and motivates attitudes and actions. If I'm going to say I'm going to be kind to someone, let my action prove that. If I say that I will be loving to another person, you may not agree with me on everything I say, but we could have the conversations. Values describe those personal qualities that we choose to embody to guide our actions, the sort of person that we want to be. And in looking at our faith formation right now, love is moving into the center of what our faith formation is. The value of love is the epitome of who we are and what we are, and is in essence in building that community we always want to have. You know, someone said a interesting thing to me yesterday that I thought was one of your congregants. He said maybe we should change the word from beloved community to loving community. I like that too. Love is at the center. To me, this is what Unitarian Universalism is about. That is what we center with our lives, with our conversations about who we are and what we are. Let love guide us, as one of our hymnals so poignantly says. Love be the beacon in Toledo. Love be the beacon of our pathways here, which would awaken us and which would keep us woke. So, Unitarian Universalist Church of Toledo, I still want you to do three things. Three things I want you to do. And those things are to stand awakened. The second is to stand awakened with the senses, as what our opening hymn had said. Wake now your senses. And thirdly, don't be caught asleep. Don't ever be caught asleep. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Now is the time when we can offer our financial support as well as our personal support to this church. So the time for the offering. You can leave your financial support in a little basket that's outside on the lobby, or you can contribute through the website, the uutoledo.org, or you can mail your pledge or your offering to 3205 Glendale Avenue here in Toledo at 43614. This is a welcoming community, as you just heard from Reverend Samuel Prince. And we need to be a beacon. So if you would like to join us in, and I'm going to get this without falling on my face and dropping everything. There are some things in the pocket in your, in front of you. There's this about offering online. There's the principles of Unitarian Universalism. And then if you're a visitor and you want to know more about our church, there's this, and you can fill that out. And then information. So kindly feel that you can contribute in more ways than just money. Okay, wait a minute, I lost my place.
It's okay.
Okay. All right.
So, coming soon. I may not be here.
We're gonna sing.
Oh.
Next.
Oh.
Oh, I've got to say my.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world would die. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Could we go home now? Oh boy, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for
Was.
reminding me that's yes, beautiful, beautiful. It's the common time in our service, and I'm telling you about the plans for next week, and Pam will add some items to there. Next Sunday at 9:45 would be the spiritual forum, which is scheduled to be a session of adult religious education. Please come and learn more about Unitarian Universalism. And next Sunday at 11 a.m., our service will be the springtime service, which will be led by our religious education department. Our director of lifelong learning, Jeannie Gutman, is planning an hour or so for us all.
If your group or committee has not yet submitted your entry for the annual report, it's a week past due, past the deadline. Could you please get it done and turned into the office manager ASAP? Immediately following today's service, please join us down the hall in the gathering room there for coffee hour, social time. And there's a potluck today, and all visitors are certainly welcome. And at 1 o'clock today, just after the potluck here in the sanctuary, we will have a celebration of Barbara Crosswell's life. Barbara died March 29th at the age of 95. Please join with her family to remember this remarkable woman. And now our closing words. These are from Claude McKay, and they are after Claude McKay by Mahogany Brown. If we must live, let it not be in silence. Each shadow surrounding our right to be outraged, let us not sit hands crossed while our stomachs growl, upset, full of bad food and assembly line ideas. Listen closely. Our bodies bubbling up angrily at the lies we have been fed. If we must live, and we must, let it be with our fists in the air to remind the people that we will speak up for what is right. We will always stand up against that which brings harm. We will demand what is just, not only for our own lives, but for the lives that are impacted by injustice. Let us live to fight for a better day, every day, for everyone. And now I invite you to sing with us hymn number 168 at the postlude.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us and everyone. We'll take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard for everyone. We say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared for everyone. We say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We sing one more song.
My dear friends, as we're leaving here this Sunday morning, as we extinguish our chalice, may we find the right people to do the right things as we go. May we discover that what we needed was right here all along. And may we remember to stop and marvel at the magic of each moment as it flows.